All right, everybody, welcome to Tuesday night, Dr. Staci's Doctor's Call. However, we are wrapping up a series of peak and performance. This is the fourth one that we've done. You have had the opportunity to hear some incredible stories, testimonies of life before and after being introduced to this technology. I know many of you are guests on here, so let me take a minute and introduce myself. If you do not know who I am, my name is Laura Balzer. I have been a part of LifeWave for 4 years. I am a senior presidential director, and I can tell you that it has been a true blessing to be a part of this company, not only for myself and my family, but for the hundreds of thousands of people that myself and my team together have been able to help. I'm kind of excited. Wes, give me just a moment here. Very proud moment for me. Our guest tonight happens to be the son of one of my leaders on my team, Kathy, and her beautiful husband, Stevenson. Terry Stevenson. And so we're very excited to have Wes join us. I do want to remind everybody that the information that you are going to hear this evening is for educational purposes only. We want you to know that we always want you to seek the advice of your practitioners, of your medical advisors before embarking on anything. And by no means are we here to treat, diagnose, or cure anybody. And of course, we always want to talk to our pregnant and nursing mothers, for you too as well. Always check with your practitioners. And you guys never know what you might be introducing them to. So with that said, Wes, I have to read this bio because it's pretty incredible. For me, I get it, and I love everything about it. So Wes Stevenson, born in Kaufman, Texas, started riding bareback horses at the age of 17 and had his mind set he would go to the NFR, which is the National Finals Rodeo, for those of you who don't know, sitting in the top 15 of the world standings. August 25th, 2000, in Bremerton, Washington, Wes was flighted out of the arena with a career-ending injury, nearly severing his lower left leg. 7 surgeries later, a metal rod, several screws, and 7 months of rehab, he came back to finish 18th in the 2001 world standings. In 2002, he dominated the competition by sitting number 1 in the world standings until the end of September. A horse ran him into the chute, causing the bone to re-break. Wes was resilient to ride at the NFR and fought his way back. He competed at the Texas Stampede with a hole in his leg, where he tied Joe Alexander's record of 93 points and went on to set a new world record of 94 points on Kessler Cover Girl the very next night. Wes competed at his first NFR after dropping down to 130 or 130 pounds. December 16th, 2022, the day after the 10th round, Wes was lying in an operating room. 9 surgeries later, 1 1/4 of his bone length removed, an external fixator attached, he left the hospital. During this time of rehab and regrown his bone, Wes completed his degree from Texas Tech University. He also decided during that time to give the bucking horse business by purchasing 4 mares and a stud from JJ Radio Company. Those bloodlines continued to build the Stevenson Ranch herd and go down and ending injury, nearly severing his lower left leg, excuse me. 7 surgeries later, a metal rod, and we read all that. Yes, we heard about, okay. I don't know why it repeated itself. Oh my gosh. So I love this. So he also, during that time, to get into the bucking horses business by purchasing the mares, we shared that with you. And after being off over a year from rodeo, Wes came back to compete at the NFR a total of 9 times. So Wes, that is quite the bio for quite the young man that you are. So I'm going to turn it over to you and let you really kind of wrap all that up that I just read out loud and let people know how you got started in this and the road that you traveled, because being up on top of a 1,500-pound horse is it's a profession. Being up on horses like that, it's a pro sport. And I really want people to see that, because being in the equine world is pretty exciting. So the floor is yours, my sir.
It was a fun endeavor that I went after from a young age. That was a dream of a young man, of a boy that was 4 years old, that I always wanted to accomplish. And I had my mindset that no matter what, I was going to do it. And winners don't need an excuse, and I didn't want to have any excuses. And so you through years of rodeo and just being around people, you always hear somebody saying, "Oh, my uncle was great, but he had an injury." Oh, everybody always had an excuse, and I wanted to be a guy that didn't have any excuses why I didn't accomplish my goals. And so I was uh, pretty hard headed on that standpoint, and I was going to do whatever it took to get there. Um, Through God's grace, and I've been very blessed. Had a great career, got a great family now, and so it's been a fun endeavor that you want to meet somebody that has to give everything they got, dig hard, find a rodeo cowboy that's been really successful. Everybody hears their success stories, but a lot of those stories come along with a lot of heartache, triumph, and trials and tribulation, how to get there.
Yeah,
And so I'm just one of many, and just very blessed to have the career that I did.
I love that. I love that. I mean, you speak like a true pro. So take us into a little bit about what I read about. I mean, to be it takes a lot of training, it takes a lot of drive, it takes a lot of strength. Start talking about, once you got into it, the things that you started to experience. Walk through some of these injuries. And if you don't mind, I know you started a dream of a 4-year-old, but when did you find yourself on top of a horse? Like, when did we really like run after this hard?
Probably, I dreamed about it. I played with my dad's rigging when I was a little kid, putting on a horse, and people could drive down the road and see a little kid riding on a horse on a bareback rig and going across a pasture. Um, and that was when the dream started. I didn't take it serious until I turned 17. My mom and dad really didn't want me to get on a bucking horse. I got on a few bulls. I had other, between showing livestock, playing sports in high school, different things of that nature. And I was 17, and I told my parents that I was going to get on bucking horses, and I could do it when I was 18, or they could start helping me when I was 17. And they couldn't stop me when I was 18. Luckily enough, they supported me, and it's been a good road. It was fun. The injuries from an early on, I had to search throughout the newest ways of and newest technologies, best ways to serve my body and be as healthy as I could. I was dealing with a body that my first NFR, I was down to about 130 pounds, is just very skinny, didn't have a lot of muscle, and was fighting everything I could to keep my body alive. At the time, had a pick line and receiving had a pick line through my heart. Um, and receiving Rocephin, which that made me drop about 20 pounds. And so not only am I going and getting in a fist fight with a 1,500-pound bucking horse, I've got to do it when my body is not at its full capability. And so at that time, I started searching out the best ways to heal my body, um, from different vitamins to different doctors. I even had it set up with uh, to where if I got injured anywhere in the United States, Canada, that I would get a Learjet to a specific doctor. My wife at the
Right.
time she knew if I had a hand injury, arm injury, different parts of my body got hurt, she had the list of the doctor there was a select few that she was to get me to. And so I started to understand that every single doctor you talk to is not an expert in that division. They may not study up on what is the best things that are going on currently. And so since then, I've always tried to keep up with what's going on and take care of my body the best I can and how it can heal. Through all the years of rodeoing, from football to rodeoing, I received a lot of head injuries and a lot of concussions. And a lot of people consider, and I guess there is a concussion, that where you just get knocked silly a little bit. And concussions where I was counting the ones that every time I got knocked out and went to sleep in the arena. And I had a lot of concussions. I had one particular where I went to sleep in the arena 6 days in a row, and was rodeoing hard. My wife was with me at the time, and she was not very comfortable about it. She called, unbeholding to me, she called a doctor of ours, a doctor that I told her was particularly for my head, everything else. And he told me, get on a flight the next morning. Come to find out, I'd cracked my skull down the middle. And so I needed to lay off for a little bit, let everything heal. Fast forward throughout, and that's just part of rodeo. And I had a lot of concussions. And this was back then, concussions was Cowboys particular. If you're able to get up and walk, you go get on the bucking horse, you go get on the bull, and that's how you make a living. If you don't get on, you can't get paid. And so when you're trying to take care of family, you tough it up and go do the job. Um, and so I handled it probably with a little bit of a reckless abandonment, but um, I didn't notice until a few years ago, and a good Christian friend of mine, and I love men that'll be honest with you, with brothers that'll be honest with each other. And he came to me and he's like, Wes, I'm noticing you're off. There seems to be your memory, or sometimes he said 5 years ago you were very sharp on things, and he said it seems like you're kind of slowing down and stopping. He brought it to my attention, and so and I was, until he said that, I didn't realize the brain fog that I was having and delay and everything clicking upstairs. And
Well, and
so
not to interrupt you, keep that train of thought. But when you and I spoke, I was amazed. 30 concussions.
plus
30.
that,
30 plus.
yes.
That's unheard of.
When and we've now, and everybody knows that it's a lot more acceptable in society now that you go talk to a counselor. Cowboys in, let's say, even 2010, that's not that long ago.
Right.
You didn't go talk to a counselor.
No.
you know uh, and we're starting to see the importance of the brain health and people working on your mind, and that's the most powerful thing in your body. And as a human, is you need to take care of your head and your brain more. Of course, you need to take care of your physical self, so you can enjoy life and be a so I can be a dad with my kids. But having my brain working properly is so imperative to being a good dad. And so I've had to take time to research, eat the proper things, take care of my brain, um, and I've seen a huge turnaround. Uh,
So when were you introduced to this technology? When, like,
um,
we've had all the surgeries and the injuries and the concussions and the comebacks and the got knocked off again, not to, no pun intended there, but
right.
when were you introduced after all of these things? Nutrition was always the basis for you, which I absolutely love. Tell me what happened when you started using the technology.
It took a while for me to come around to it, honestly.
Yep.
My mom and dad were into it, and my mom, if any of y'all know her, is very persistent, um, and she likes to get her way. That is a good thing. She finally talked me into she just try it, just trust me. And maybe I just went along with it just to make her happy. And I didn't know if it'd work or not. Didn't matter.
The good son
If
that you are.
right, just if that'll make her happy, cool. I'll try it out. No big deal. Um, and I did, and it wasn't something that I just put a patch on and the next day I saw a difference. Um, it took a little bit more time, and especially with the brain, and I didn't notice it myself. And probably 5 6 months into using the patches, that like what my brain is clicking a lot faster. Um, being able I have a welding business, a custom welding business, and with that, it's not just, we don't build fence, and there is a lot of math to it, and from trig and different things of that nature. And I noticed how quickly a lot of that was coming back to me and being able to do in my head and not have to write down on a piece of paper. And the math problems, on larger math problems, I'm able to do in my head without having to even write it down, and just clicking on that standpoint. And that's when I went, oh, wow, maybe this is working. I've had some other in the last year. A year ago, I had a riding horse kick me in the knee. I did rehab with that with one of my Sean Scott, one of my favorite doctors that worked on me when I rodeoed, and he was helping me rehab. And he said, if we can get this right, we'll try it. He is always a we do rehab and eat the right things first before we try to do surgery. And my knee is. He said there's probably about 75 to 80% chance we're going to have to do surgery, but let's try to heal it. My knee is completely healed up and not bothering me at all. Um,
Wow.
and so that is, can I say that is the patch that fixed it? Is I do believe it's a combination of the rehab, eating, and the patch, all of it together, that's helped it out.
I love that you said that, because this is a tool in your toolbox, and you're a man that have surrounded yourself with people who can give you and advise you in that different areas of tools in your toolbox. And I love that you
Mhm.
said that. Question: how old are you?
45.
And you sustained your first injury at what age?
And 25 years ago. Well, I had injuries before that, but that was
Well, football and everything, right?
right. And I had concussions before that. I had rodeo concussions and get knocked out before then. But the first major injury that I was care flighted in and almost lost my leg was in 2000. And so that was one that set me back. The doctors were telling me there was no chance I was going to ride again. I was going to be very lucky to keep my leg, and I was going to be real lucky to even be able to walk on my leg again, much less ever ride bucking horses again.
And you're
And
obviously riding now, and you
I'm not,
ride for
I'm,
pleasure.
yes, I ride horses, and every now
For
and then
pleasure.
one might buck with me, but nothing like I used to get on all the
Nothing
time.
you can't handle, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
You speak of your family, and it takes a very strong wife or a woman to be in your life and stand beside you and watch you get beat up like
Hmm.
that, and be able to, carry the responsibilities, because you were down. How old are your children?
13 and 8. I got a
Wow.
13-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son, and um, that's where my training, I focused that where it used to be. I focused on trying to be the best rodeo athlete I could. Now I want to be the best dad I can, and that means being able to keep up with my kids. And if you knew my daughter's pretty tough. She's a black belt in Kikido. It's a form of MMA. So she's athletic and likes to roughhouse a little bit. Our 8-year-old son, if you can keep up with him, good luck. He's 9-0. So that's my athletic goals now, is to be able to keep up with my kids and play with them and be very
I
active
love
in that.
that. I love that. Well, no doubt that they're like that, because it takes that type of personality to do what you did. And I love that you're speaking about this, because you know a lot of people think horses not a sport, and you really have to train for this. You really have to be in incredible shape. You have to be on your game. You do get thrown off all the time. um I was just jumping and I got thrown off all the time. I can't imagine being on a bronc, right? But
Right.
Wes, I so admire and respect you for coming on here and sharing this, because it really doesn't matter the age. I love that you talked about mindset, and that no matter what, you just kept on going. I mean, who cracks their skull and just gets right back on there, and it's a love for the sport. It's a love for who you are. It's mindset. And I really respect that. So thank you for sharing this. I want you to leave our guests and our partners with one piece of advice of staying strong, staying committed to what you're doing, and constantly move forward and attaining your dreams, be it your family, be it whatever it is. What would you say?
Of course, as being a individual that had to work hard, chasing things, self motivated, difference between rodeo cowboys and your different football players, things of that nature. If you look at that, your rodeo athletes are self motivated. They don't have a coach that comes in, go, let's go, 6 o'clock practice. It is, if you want to get out of bed and go work out, you go do it and get in shape, be the best you can with that. And so I studied a lot of books, a lot of sayings, and I've got a plethora of those stuck in the back of my head. But one thing that just significant to me personally was I was a young kid with a dream, and that was something that I was not going to be denied. But every time I went and rode, it was the best way to compare it to was um, if you can relate to back when you're a little kid, how excited, if you go back to yourself at 4 or 5 years old on Christmas morning, how excited you were to go open that present. When chasing the dreams that I had and I worked hard at them, it was like Christmas morning every day to me. And
Wow.
so go after your dreams like that. If you got something you want to do, give everything you got to into it, and it's very fulfilling.
Awesome. Amen. Well, I know you're instilling that in your children, and I know your wife stands right beside you with that. And I know that Kathy and Terry are extremely proud of you, and probably very grateful for you and and what you're doing and what you will continue to do. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Absolutely. Anytime. You are welcome anytime.
Thank you.
Okay, you guys. Wow. I can't imagine, but that's pretty incredible. So obviously, when you hear Wes speak about his travels through his pro career as a rodeo enthusiast, if you will, that type of injuries, those injuries will compound over and over and over again. And as you heard him talk, the things that started to notice, brain fog, people started noticing these things, injuries taking longer to heal. It's part of life, but that's a lot on a body. So Kathy shared with me that Wes, because you guys were asking what patches he uses. He uses X39, X49. I'm assuming, Wes, you can maybe, let me ask this to you really quickly. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Did you use the Eon patch for inflammation as you were healing as well?
Mainly the X39. There's been a variety of few different things that my mom's given me that
Right.
um, I just put them on and go like, yes, ma'am, sure. She just told me what it takes. I don't know.
Kathy's laughing. Thank you. All right, so you guys, this patch, this is the thing that we're talking about right here. This is a patch the size of a quarter for our guests that are joining us tonight, wondering how can something this small have such great weight and do what you heard Wes speak of this evening. I want to share with you, though, this is not your everyday patch. This is not a transdermal patch, which I think we're all very used to. A patch that has a substance or a solution or a chemical on there that will enter the body as soon as you put the patch on. That's not how this works. This is non-transdermal, meaning nothing is going in the body. So when I place this on my skin, nothing is entering, absolutely nothing. So there's no contraindications to anything that you might be doing or taking, be it a pharmaceutical, be it supplementation, be it any type of modality that you might be doing. But the question is, well, Laura, if nothing's going in, how does it work? Well, if you'll notice here, this little white dot that's in the center of this patch, okay, this is where a proprietary blend sits that our inventor, our scientist, our CEO, David Schmidt invented. Now, please understand, our guests, this technology is not new. It's been around for over 20 years. However, this patch that we're speaking of this evening, X39, has only been in the marketplace for 5 years. So you are hearing about it now, and that's a huge plus. And you heard from Wes this evening the capabilities of using this patch consistently. But what is held in the middle here is that proprietary blend consisting of organic amino acids, water, sugar crystals, and oxygen. Yes, it sounds like things that we might have in our kitchen, but it is not. These are molecules. And when these molecules come together, they form a lattice structure right here in the middle of this. I like to tell my clients that structure that comes together very tightly, I want you to think of a mirror because it becomes reflective. Okay, this is very reflective. So when I place it on my skin, because my body is always emitting light or heat, right? Remember when you touch your chest, you can feel the warmth. We're running at about 98.6. You don't have to be exact, but that's what most people run at, right? The light that we're emitting bounces off the center of this patch. And because of the structure in the center, that heat or light that I'm emitting bounces off, but reflects back towards my body. But that wavelength of light comes back very specific, a very specific wavelength of light. And when this happens, immediately my body goes into full mode of resetting over 4,000 genes in the body to a healthier, younger state. And when this starts to happen and these genes start expressing to one another, we're able to elevate a peptide in our body called GHKCU. And it's when this peptide is elevated, we're able to signal our bodies to wake up, mobilize, and stimulate our regenerative cells. You know, if you go and Google GHKCU, you'll see that it is responsible for moving again stem cell production. So when we get these regenerative cells up and moving again, then our bodies can get back to work, getting to the root of problems. And not just getting to them, putting the body in the mode of restoration, restoring, repairing, because that's what our bodies are designed to do. You know, many of you might not remember or know that you were born with an abundant amount of stem cells. But by the time you were 30, 35, you only had half that were up and working for you. By the time you're 60, 65, you've used up 80 to 90%. Who wants that, right? So this is something that you want to use consistently. You heard Wes speak that it took a while for him to notice things, 5-6 months. However, there are a lot of people that put this patch on, the next day they get up and they can't believe how well they've slept. Or maybe that brain fog does lift a little bit. But please understand, you're not going to put one patch on. And people laugh when I say it this way, and the Red Sea parts. Right? It's a compounding effect. When we're signaling peptides in the body, they work over time, right? Day after day, week after week, month after month, maybe year after year. So when you get started using these patches, realize that you're going to opt in for 1 month for every decade of life. Now, please understand, we just didn't pick that number out of the air. We have over 90 clinical studies that share with you what we're talking about this evening is actually taking place in the body, on top of the patents to go with that. So if you're 48, I'm going to tell you, hey, you and I are going to be working together for 5 months. We want to upregulate that production of your regenerative cells to be moving and serving you like they did when you were in your 20s and 30s. Who doesn't want that? Because every 6 weeks that you use this patch, the heart, the cardiovascular system does start working 8 weeks younger. How phenomenal is that? Now, I just told you guys 1 month's use for every decade of life. I'm 62. I've been patching for 4 years. I will never not patch. And there's many people on this tonight we had like 325, 330 people on. Many have been patching for a long time. Why do I continue to patch? Because my biomarkers, my blood work shows my doctors that even though my birth certificate says I'm 62, my body, my biological age is functioning that of a woman between 27 and 30. So when you ask the person tonight, when you go back to them, when do I stop patching, or how long do I stop patching? Very seriously, they're going to say to you, when do you want to start aging again? Because literally, this is what this technology is giving to the body. It is a tool to bring the body back in balance so it can get to the root of problems and get in there and regenerate. So I don't want to keep you too long. I know we're running about 3 minutes over, but I want to leave you with this. Time is going to go by anyway. We can't stop time, but we can choose what we do with it. So you have a choice. We all do. Do I want to continue on that time and have my body continue to degenerate? Or do I choose to use that time and offer my body a tool that will give it the abilities to constantly be in a state of regeneration through that time? So again, I leave you with that. I encourage you to get back to the person that invited you this evening. Have them speak to you. Maybe put a little customized pack together for you. Maybe you just get started with X39. Maybe add the Eon for inflammation. But let them know we're all a big team here. We're all very knowledgeable, and we can all help you with whatever you have going on. Wes, you're an amazing young man, very impressive. I know your folks are really proud of you. I wish you all the well with your family. I know your kids are going to turn out just to be phenomenal human beings, and we can't wait to have you back. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody.